Hello and welcome to the Hill and Valley. This is Nick Roby. Thanks for joining me once again. Just another day to talk about some Clemson sports and excited to jump on in it with you. It's recording this on November 9th, 2023. So super excited talking to you all today. And we got a lot to talk about. We got some Clemson footballs playing Georgia Tech. We've got both men and women's basketball played Winthrop. Going to talk about those games a little bit and just lots more coming on the podcast. Also, congratulations to Clemson women's soccer, who got the number one seed after finishing second in the ACC tournament, and they will start their trip for that, which is super exciting. First time ever in their history doing that. And then the men defeated Louisville last night 5-1 to move on to their championship game against North Carolina. So they went last year, lost to Syracuse, but now they're going to play North Carolina. So soccer is going pretty well. I would watch those teams if you get an opportunity to do so. But here we go. We're going to talk about some game with Georgia Tech on Saturday, and then we're going to talk about women and men's basketball. So the Clemson Tigers have another home game. They will play Georgia Tech this time on Saturday. This will be a noon kickoff on ABC against the Yellow Jackets. The Yellow Jackets are 5-4, 4-2 in conference. Clemson is 5-4, 2-4 on the year right now. Georgia Tech is coming off a win against UVA, and Clemson, of course, is coming off of a win against Notre Dame. Georgia Tech's a very weird team as I'm pulling up their schedule because I just want to make sure I get this right. So they've won two in a row. They beat Georgia Tech 45. Georgia Tech beat Virginia 45-17. They beat North Carolina at home in a crazy one, 46-42. Lost to Boston College, beat Miami, lost to Bowling Green. They've just had a very, I don't know if chaotic, but just very up and down season for them. They're really one of the harder teams to predict just because, they've played really well at times, and then they've lost teams they shouldn't have. Actually, crazy stat I heard today is they're actually 3-1 on the road, which is very interesting. So, and you wouldn't think of it, but they're 4-2 in conference. And not someone you want to take lightly. I think this is a very interesting battle between them. And also it's very interesting after coming off the Notre Dame game, it's a difference of styles and different ways you might want to attack or just a different way to look at them. I think a big thing is that it's at home for Clemson, which helps. Two familiar foes, but remember too, it's still getting used to Georgia Tech not running that option. Now with is it Key? I was getting mixed up, but yeah, just with the new coach and coordinators, just something to look at. Haynes King is the Texas A&M transfer. He's been starting for them. He's 179 for 283, over 2,300 yards, 63% on the year, 22 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. Running back that's come on for them, Jamal Haynes, who has 664 yards, 6 touchdowns, 5.8 a clip. And between him, 6 touchdowns, between him and King, they have 11 rushing touchdowns on the year. So a lot of weapons for them. They also go to Eric Singleton and Malik Rutherford, who have 9 touchdowns total and almost 1,000 yards between the two of them. Those are their two top receivers. So Georgia Tech likes to spread it out a little bit, whereas Notre Dame wanted to, control the clock, control the line of scrimmage, and maybe limit some possessions. Georgia Tech's they've been very okay with these back and forth kind of games, and that's how they came back and beat North Carolina. The thing for Clemson is, I think, I don't know if you necessarily want to get into a track meet with them, but I think if you can control the line of scrimmage like you did with Notre Dame, and you control, I think a big stat in this one is third downs, which is it's a pretty, it's a stat you always look at. But I think just even looking at Georgia Tech, I just thought this was very interesting. Third downs, they convert 47.5% on third downs on offense. That's 20th in the country. And on defense, they allow opponents to convert 44.7% of the time. So pretty close, but that's only 110th in the country. Remember, there's 133 FBS schools that play Division I football. So not great. Basically, they try to score a lot of points and they will give up some points. As it says, they score 33 a game and they give up 30. So they're playing these types of battles. Offensively, they're going 465 yards a game, 261 in the air, 204 on the ground. Defensively, 455 total, 235 through the air, 220 on the ground. Not great. And I think something that you're going to see Clemson want to exploit too is they're giving 220 yards rushing on the ground, which is second worst in FBS. And, that could play to some strengths that Clemson has shown, especially with Phil Mafah last game for 186 yards. And then if you get Will Shipley back, I wouldn't be surprised if they go about in a similar way. But I think you also need to establish some of the passing game too, especially with like with North Carolina and South Carolina coming up as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see a lot of running and then trying to establish some maybe deeper shots and just trying to exploit defensively, because they've been known to give up some bigger pass plays too. So I think that's the big thing though, is third downs, is that you have to keep these drives going, keep one of the best defenses sometimes is keeping your offense on the field. So the more they can convert these third downs, that will be huge for Clemson, and then keeping Georgia Tech off and then forcing them to have to play catch up. And I think too, you probably want to not let Haynes King beat you. And like with this passing game, Singleton has 552 yards and 6 touchdowns. I would probably rather try to keep things in front of you and then try to get pressure on the quarterback and force him into some decisions. He's got 10 interceptions in 9 games. So that's, a little over 1 a game. So I would look for an aggressive style defense. And I think Clemson's just going to play themselves and play the game. And so again, I think this is a big opportunity to build some momentum off of Notre Dame and really build it into what you got established, and not let that be a one-off, because you're going to be in a stretch of games where you've got some tough opponents. Like Georgia Tech it's a very interesting team. And then you got North Carolina next week, who has a great offense and kind of an okay defense, kind of average, these defenses in these upcoming games, they're definitely ones that Clemson can run on and score on. And I think wanting to be the aggressor in the game, and whoever can establish the style of ball that they want to play is huge. And with these games being at home, that's also massive. So it's also Military Appreciation Day. It'll actually be played on Veterans Day, which is pretty cool. So they'll be wearing the all purple, which is fun against Georgia Tech, because that's kind of how that got started. And for me growing up, like it just feels right to wear purple against Georgia Tech. And whenever I had that opportunity with NCAA football, I would always wear purple against Georgia Tech. I mean, no matter what. I mean, I totally get what Sweeney does, and it just happened to work out this year. But I just think it's always cool to wear the purple against Georgia Tech. So that's gonna be fun. So yeah, I think this is an opportunity to really want to get the offense clicking. I think last week you just had to win and do what you could, and want to control the ball and keep Notre Dame off the clock and kind of beat them at their own game. And now I think you can start to establish some rhythm. I would like to see a little more dynamic in the passing game, maybe a little bit more than just some quick slants. Love to see Tyler Brown able to get a little going, and hopefully Brandon Stool can go and have a good game, and maybe and then Shipley's back, getting him involved, maybe some passes out of the backfield, I think would be good. I'm excited to see, and hopefully how they play the offensive line, if that's the same one, because that unit did really well. So I hope that I kind of want to see them again and just kind of establish that rhythm together and see if you can't go on a string of wins and then try to go for a bowl game and get a win in the bowl game to finish 9-4. But a lot still have to play for. And I think now it's wanting to finish November well, finish the stretch well, get these steps, win the rivalry, finish 9-4, and end on a high note and end on your terms, especially. So, but I think that's the big stat, is third down conversions. They're 20th on offense, 110th on defense. So you stop them on third downs, make third and longs, make it harder to convert, and then you continue to get the ball on third down. And then also too, and the flipping the field, I think will be big. The line's 14 and a half. What's the line that, in the contest I'm in with the rural radio station, the line that was like when we got the picks, it was 14 and a half, which seemed high. I think it's gone down a little bit since then, but I know they just beat Notre Dame, but to me it just felt high. And it's not that I don't think I would predict Clemson to win. I just think it's going to be in that maybe that 10-point kind of a range, maybe like 34-24 kind of a game. If I'm gonna put a number on it, I'm gonna kind of go with 34-24. Because Georgia Tech can score, and I think for them, if they turn the ball over, that will of course make it more difficult. And Clemson can score on them, but I also would think too, with the style that they might want to be, they've been methodical and been more, the more they can control the ball. And I think we might see some of that with some shots in there as well. Or maybe it's more utilizing the passing game. That's what I'm gonna go with there. I think Klubnik will get some more yards. I'm not as concerned. They only threw for like 100 yards. It was just you gave the ball to your hot hand running back, and that's what you go for there. So I'm gonna have Clemson win. Clemson wins, but Georgia Tech covers. I'm gonna go 34-24 just for my official prediction, but somewhere along that kind of line for sure. And I'll be pleasantly surprised if Clemson covers. But I think just the way that's been going and knowing how Clemson has had issues turning the ball over, especially with some fumbles, that can keep a scoreline closer. And I think there are things that are to be encouraged about. And I also would say too, like most weeks there's been, some kind of turnover that leads into points and keeps teams in games. And it just also depends on how this starts, and who can establish momentum. I don't want Clemson playing a game in the high 30s, or even into the 40s or high 30s, really, because I think that would benefit more Georgia Tech, and it's showing that they can score quickly. And I think if this game stays in the 20s or keeping Georgia Tech into the teens, I think that plays into Clemson's hand, especially at home. And at a noon game, showing that like how Clemson got up last week. So there you go. That's my prediction. 34-24. The Tigers will play Georgia Tech, remember, on Saturday at noon on ABC. And you also can listen to on 105.5 The Roar, or the Clemson Athletic Radio Network. So really fun one. A big slate of college football games. If you want to hear more about that, you should check out the other podcasts that I do with Backyard Catch. This is, of course, is a podcast and a part of the Backyard Catch family network. So that's been fun working on. So if you want to hear more picks on the contest, and if you want to hear more about that, make sure you check out Backyard Catch podcasts. You can find it as soon as you spell it. They're right in there as well. So there you have it with that. Want to also make sure we got some time to talk about a little basketball. We got some basketball started, and both teams played Winthrop, which I thought was really a fun day. They both opened with Winthrop. The women played the matinee at like 11:30, and the men played at 7. So got to see that, and I think there's both things to be encouraged about with them. I think he felt for both of them first game jitters for sure. As I'm pulling up the stat sheet, the women won 71-41. It was a little bit closer at halftime. There's only about a 6-point game at half. A couple starters a couple players didn't play in the first half, and so they didn't shoot the ball necessarily the best in the first half. But the Tigers ended up pulling away with the third quarter and fourth quarter and got the 30-point win. Winthrop's in a rebuilding mode. They only had won 8 games last year, so it was good to put that team away and not let them hang around. Amari Robinson is she's so consistent. I mean, she just casually has 22 points, 6 rebounds, couple assists, 6 to 7 from the free throw line. She's just so consistent, and I think it'll be huge for this team. And you have to remember too, she's back, but like there's more pieces that are trying to fill themselves in. You got Elmore got the start, and so I think she'll be big. She got into some foul trouble early, but her rebounding and be able to play big with some of the bigs that Clemson will have to play down low and help with Amari will be big. Cluse was fun. Like, she was fun to watch. I thought she did a really good job of where she could cut to the basket and get some of that mid-range going. And Danielle Rauch, who was the GA last year, she played at Michigan, and then she was the GA last year, and then she had some more eligibility. And so that was fun to see her out on the floor. Thought she did a really good job and gave a more of a senior presence on the team, and did a really good job, I thought, distributing the ball, with 4 rebounds, 4 assists. She didn't score, but you could tell she had a calming presence about her. And so excited for these ladies to get some games under their belt and kind of establish themselves. And this could be a fun team, and they have an opportunity to go to the tournament if things fall their way and they take care of some business and get some key wins. But I think it's good to build that momentum. Would love to see some more of the outside shot making, and I think some of that will come. I think some of the shot making can take a little bit of time in these first games, and you're getting a rhythm, figuring out rotations and figuring out all these things. And so that will be good to see. And so they've got Charleston Southern on Friday at home, which should be another way for them to establish themselves. I would expect them to take care of business against Charleston Southern, because you want them to see them do well. And then they got Mercer, I think. And then in the next couple weeks, they'll go to South Carolina, which you got your in-states. That's tough. They're number 6 in the country, and they took care of business against Notre Dame. But then they've got the tournament in Houston where they play Mississippi State and some others as well. So there's opportunities for sure. But I think this team, the more momentum they can build in the non-conference, the better. And then when you get into ACC play, which is always really tough. But this is a fun team to watch, and I would go out there if you get a chance to. And then for the men, they also played Winthrop, and they also too were a little bit slow on offense at first. Winthrop was kind of hanging around, but they ended up winning 78-56. And I thought was really impressive with this for the men was that they're adding some new pieces. Obviously, Joe Girard, the transfer from Syracuse, comes. I was really excited to see his debut. He only ended up with 3 points. But what I thought was very interesting and really key for this too was that George Girard's a scorer. He came to score. Like everyone knows like his history and accolades that he has, and his bio, he's a scorer. And it'd be interesting to see how he would kind of fit in, how well he's picked up to the defense, and how the rotation and just how that ball movement kind of goes. Is you're replacing Hunter Tyson, and you're just trying to figure out how does this all kind of work. And they were not letting him beat him because they know how much of a shooter he is. And I just thought he did a really good job distributing the ball, not forcing stuff, which I thought was really big. And I think that's the thing with this team is that Chauncey Wiggins only had 2 points and he started. Joe Girard had 3. Chase Hunter had a late 10. Jack Clark, he could be a guy who gets some key minutes. He had 6, but nothing crazy. Those guys who can have considerable minutes only had that much points. I thought that was really encouraged about. They made 27 baskets, had 21 assists. No one had more than 4, but there were multiple guys with at least more than 1, which I thought was big. It just shows you how much they're distributing the ball, showing how much they're moving and getting guys open. And there's so many options. And I saw a lot of unselfish play, which I was really encouraged about. I thought, of course, PJ Hall got his. He was 20 points, 5 rebounds. Could have had some more rebounds, but I thought it was good to get him going. Ian Shefflin had a great game, 16.7 rebounds. Thought he did really well. He's just an underrated guy, and he didn't have his assist numbers that he can usually have, but he's just a dude, does a lot of the dirty work, does a lot of the things that don't always show up, on the box score, but he just is such a good passer and such a good presence on the court, and has a good feel for the game. Like he's a fun, underrated player, and there's a fun team to watch. Chauncey Wiggins, good to see him get established. RJ Godfrey, I thought, I liked that way he played. Sorry about that. I thought that he played really well and had some good minutes off the bench. The only thing that I'm concerned about for them would be just some, like, who's gonna be that backup big and who's gonna be the guy to really establish, and just you want to watch out for foul trouble, and I think that's the thing to just watch with PJ Hall is just, I feel like, especially in the first half, you don't want to get him 2 fouls early, and then it's like, who's going to go off the bench and replace him and all that kind of stuff. And so Alex Hemingway, had some points off the bench, which is good. So it's a really deep team, and I think this will be fun to watch. And they've got a fun one this weekend. They go to the up to Asheville and play in that tournament. They've got UAB on Friday, which would be a fun one. And then the winner of that, and depending on how the other game goes, the other game is Davidson and Maryland. So assuming if Clemson wins, they would most likely play Maryland, which would be, former ACC school, and could be a fun one and could be a good non-conference game. And so I don't know, this team is really, really good, and be fun to watch as they establish themselves. And I mean, Faxon Childress was talking about, our friend that I've done color commentating with for high school football. He made a good point. And I think this team has an opportunity to be undefeated 5-0, going into the Alabama game with the SEC ACC challenge when they go on the road to Alabama, who's number 24 in the country right now, and with a chance with late tip. And you never know when, until the ball is tipped, what that can kind of look like. But there's a chance for this team to rack off some momentum, and with them, and then they could be five. Even if they lose, I could see them being 5-1 before heading to Pitt for that first ACC game, and then have that kind of mixture of ACC and non-conference as well. So they have it as a little breakdown of both the men and women. The women play Charleston Southern on Friday, and then the men play UAB in Asheville Classic, and then we'll have another game over the weekend. So they have it. It's really fun. A big full sports weekend. Men's soccer, they play ACC championship in Cary, North Carolina on Sunday against North Carolina. So that'll be fun. A lot of fun stuff to look at. And of course, you had National Signing Day with a lot of people coming in with that. So fun game. And hopefully when we could talk next week, we can talk about some Clemson Tiger W's. So thanks for listening, everyone. And for now, I'm signing off. Take care.